Let's see how this works. I'm going to try to take a Skype call here from Benjamin in California. Benjamin, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, how's it going?
All's well.
I want to discuss how the damage I see that religion causes most frequently. I grew up in a fairly religious household. My father served a mission for the Mormon Church in Sweden, and my parents met at BYU. I went to church all of my early life. But I, from very early age, kind of rejected belief in God as magic.
Now, you are also an Eagle Scout, or were, or whatever. I don't know whether one still continues. I don't know whether there's Marine, whether you're always one or not.
It is that, but I actually was a Life Scout. My brother was an Eagle Scout.
What's the difference between a Life Scout and an Eagle Scout?
A Life Scout is just below an Eagle Scout.
All right, I was not aware of that.
As far as ranking. I had done everything to be an Eagle Scout, but I changed troops so often I lost all that. But
gotcha.
Neither here nor there.
Well, very common with Mormons, right? Isn't Mormonism like really linked with Boy Scouts?
Very big into Boy Scouting, and
okay.
I lived on a military base, so they had their own troops. So I was going back and forth between all sorts of stuff.
Was not aware of that. All right.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't see a lot of damage being directly caused by religion on a frequent basis. But when I first moved out of my house, I saw a lot of peers, people my own age, who had actually left their house. And because they had grown up on religion, they had, and belief in God and all that, they had no moral center. They had no principles that they lived by. So as soon as they got out of their house and they weren't forced to go to church anymore or live by their parents' rules,
the drinking started.
They kind of took on a little bit of nihilism of anything goes.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality.
Isn't that what you said happened to you, Mark?
Yeah, that was totally what happened for me. But, I rejected the ideas of religion. And I think that there's different personalities. I think it would be, it's obvious to say that people have different personalities. And for me, I just had that kind of personality that if you hand me an abstract idea that I'm going to and tell me that this is so, that I'm just going to believe that that's so. And that, I was just not able to, at some point or another, continue justifying Christianity as it was presented to me, as true. And so when I decided that it wasn't true, and the only thing that was keeping me being moral was a threat of hell, because frankly, that's it. Yep. In Christianity, the only thing is all you've got is the stick. You really don't get the carrot when it comes to morality, because they don't tell you, look, at least in my experience in the Christian schools I went to, and I went to Christian school from kindergarten through 8th grade. The Sunday I taught Sunday school. I was in Sunday school. Every single day, religion. I wasn't taught that morality is in and of itself it's a thing that works. It's a thing that it's a reward. You're going to have a better life if you act morally. I was never if I was told that, I wasn't told it enough to counteract the "watch out, you're going to hell" conversation.
Right.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
So I see a lot of people who are quote unquote religious, mostly using their religiosity as kind of a social group, way to get together
and it's
with
perfect
people.
for that. I mean, I think that there's been an argument, and I think that it's very valid that if there was no such thing as a religion, we'd have to create one. That these are. Are you okay? Did you break a glass?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay.
We heard sounds.
That you would have to create a religion in order to say, in an agrarian society, to get the family off the farm so that you can get your girls presented to the boys, or vice versa, so that they can start mating and having a social structure.
Why would you have to create a religion for that? Why couldn't you just have some social events?
Because that doesn't drive people in the same way.
Oh, I disagree.
The arguments have been made, and I think that it's an interesting one. That
there would certainly be some sort of social structure, some sort of reasoning.
I'm going to turn on the atheist here real quick. Now, Stephanie, there's, you'd have to admit that sort of historically that some large percentage, probably beginning with a 9 of people, and I think a very large percentage, probably triple digits beginning with a 1 of societies, have all had religion present. That somehow the human beast, the primate that is Homo sapien, is evolved to believe in some kind of supernatural being.
Well, we can wish it was true all we want, or we can be, quote, evolved to do something, but that doesn't mean it's true.
That's all I'm saying is that...
Yeah, it's common, but that's all you've shown me. You haven't shown me that it's true.
Common.
Well, Mark, I would say that there's an actual evolutionary reason why people develop mystical thinking.
Right.
And that is, imagine two bunny rabbits out on the plains, and one hears a rustling in the grass and thinks there's a tiger hunting them, and another one says, no, it's just the wind blowing the grass. The one that
you have no proof that is a tiger.
Right. The one that falsely believes is more likely
the obligation that that's a tiger is upon you to prove.
Okay, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Exactly.
So
where do tigers and rabbits live together anyway?
Wherever tigers are, I'm sure.
Sorry, Benjamin.
So the whole idea is that there are probably evolutionary reasons why people develop this pattern-seeking behavior and developing this mystical thinking.
Benjamin, I'd like to be a contrarian here and just say that I think that there might be reasons why it was not evolutionarily beneficial to develop magical thinking. And here's why. Because humans really needed to have a very firm grip on reality to do things like hunt and survive and take care of themselves in a basically a hunter-gatherer society, which most of our evolution was in that state. And so to be constantly thinking that maybe one's success at hunting depended on how hard we prayed, or that mystical beings were controlling the weather, that might not be beneficial as life skills, because it would sort of take you out of reality, right? Out of the things that you can observe and say, okay, well, I see these tracks here, I can use science to basically track this animal. If you say, well, it's up to God whether I eat today, then that's probably not going to serve you well. Does that make sense?
I completely agree. I was just offering that as an explanation for why it might exist.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it was mushrooms.
Psilocybin mushrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting theory that psilocybin mushrooms introduced abstract thought into hominids.
Here we go.
That would create the belief in the supernatural, because you just suddenly start seeing purple things swirling around or whatever.
It happens today. We know a lot of people who have said, hey, I did this drug and now I'm spiritual.
Well, I think both of these arguments are... I think both of these arguments are valid in and of themselves. Like, I think your argument and Benjamin's argument are both sound, and I think that people are both of these things at the same time. I'm going to use the term objectivist here in the way that I understand objectivist. An objectivist looks at reality as it exists, and
existence exists.
Existence exists. And whereas a spiritual person, believes that there's supernatural forces. I think that people can believe both of these things, operate the same way inside of their lives, and use these things. And it's amazing how people are fluid and can pass between these two states.
How could a person simultaneously hold the belief that existence exists, reality is reality, and it's objective independently of how we perceive it, and also hold the belief that there are certain things that happen outside of the rules of reality
because of chaos? Because every person who's entered into hand-to-hand combat understands that you can fight the same person on a different day and win one day and lose the next. And
so sometimes reality is real and sometimes it's not.
No, because there's luck, or whatever term you want to use.
Luck says nothing to
probability.
Gravity.
Yeah.
We can come back and bring this back. Benjamin, you want to come back? Let's go back to Benjamin calling from California. Benjamin, the conversation, we were discussing whether or not religion, clearly religions exist from an evolutionary standpoint, that the vast majority of people, and I think 100%, I've never heard of a society that didn't have some kind of religion.
I don't think that's clear, but go ahead.
Well, can you tell me one?
A society that didn't have one?
Yeah, didn't have a religion? I've never heard of one.
Okay, well, I guess if you're judging civilizations from, say, Sumeria up, no, I don't know of one.
Yeah, and we wouldn't really know anything before that, right? I mean, I
guess you could say China, but their religion is the state.
Yeah, we don't know about any before that because another religion burned all the records.
Yeah. So you're talking about
the Library of Alexandria.
Boy, I'm mad at
that. Had
mad
books
about that one.
Right. The Library of Alexandria, actually, a guy named Berosus wrote a book that went back 100,000 years in history that he knew.
It's crazy. How could he possibly research that?
Well, I'd like to know, but somebody burnt down the Library of Alexandria.
Indeed. Benjamin?
No, I'm still very angry about the Library of Alexandria.
Thank you. I'm not the only one.
So I think religion causes a lot of damage, but I don't think it's a lot of that damage is the type that most people point to. I think a lot of it is like, as you've experienced, Mark, in the being taught these fanciful, mystical, magical stories. And then when you reach an age where you're able to reject it, you end up throwing out everything, including, for lack of a better term, moral behavior, the don't hit, don't steal, all that kind of stuff. Because you're like, well, it's all hokum. It's all silly. It's all ridiculous.
Yeah, I was thinking about this situation. There's all these people talking about assault weapons out there. I should just carry around a jawbone of an ass with me because Samson must have slew thousands of Philistines with the jawbone of an ass. Compared to how many times have you seen one person kill 1,000 people with an automatic weapon? This is where it's at, is jawbones of asses.
That's a really good point.
Yep. Don't think I don't have one in my car right now.
Are you allowed to carry one of those?
Well, it's not listed specifically in the New Hampshire statutes, so yes, I can have the jawbone of an ass. I got to look that up on eBay, jawbones of asses. Brian,
I see the jawbone of an ass.
It's moving right now.
So,
Benjamin, what do you think that people point to instead of the effects of basically religion on people's sense of morality? What do you think they focus on?
Well, things like look at the Westboro Baptist Church, how it causes them to be bigots and homophobes. A lot of those aspects of religion, getting people to do immoral things. But I think where it's most damaging is when people end up rejecting religion altogether, but then they're left with nothing. I work with a woman who is kind of religious, kind of not, and I try to explain to her that it's not enough to teach your kids, being an atheist or whatever, or, that kind of stuff, but you have to teach them. You still have to teach them principles, because we have these discussions on a fairly regular basis, and I keep trying to explain how. No, you still need to teach your kids principles to live by. Just don't base them on magic.
This is what I try to get across to religious people. People sort of mainstream religions. I'm not going to on this show undo whatever brainwashing has occurred, and I'm sure I've got my own brainwashing too. I'm not trying to use that in a disparaging fashion. I just mean a story that's repeated over and over again. I'm not going to undo those things for those people, and I don't want people to think in a homogenous fashion. I want people to think differently. But I've got to say, that what I found most damaging about religion was this story of hell, and probably at the crux of it, not just the story of hell, but the fact that I wasn't given anything else. That not just I've got to act good, otherwise I'll go to the bad place. It's also that if you don't act good, then other people aren't going to treat you as well. You're not going to get the good jobs. You're not going to be trusted, all these other things that go along with it. I think that, to me, fundamentally is the largest failing of Christianity. I'm not familiar with the other religions in this area and how they use negative reinforcement.
I don't know. The hell thing wasn't like what struck me first was that that throughout history there were people who didn't do anything wrong, or at least they didn't aggress on anyone. And yet God found it fitting for them to die. And that struck me long before, like, hell, the principle of hell.
Do you mean death as in a physical death, or death as in a spiritual death like hell?
No, as in like a physical, as in like, okay, you can go kill the people of Jericho because they're where I want you to be.
I've heard people make arguments there that what was that the folks that the Romans fought, the Carthaginians, that they were basically part of this Carthaginian empire that sacrificed children, so therefore they deserve to die. And I've heard people use that argument. I've never found it very motivating, though.
Yeah, but that's
so
just
we
one
should judge
case
people
of
as
many.
groups, not individuals.